Hey guys, welcome back here to Intuitive Angling, and appreciate you guys swinging by the channel today to check the episode out. And guys, today got story time again. I've been having some requests for stories back in the day on the tournament circuit, so I like to throw out a few eventually here. And I think this was one, guys. Some people are asking me, like, what's the craziest thing that ever happened to you on the water? And there's been quite a few different things, but there's one that really stands out. I want to share the story with you guys today. I think that I told this, it's been about maybe 4 years ago, but we've got another 100,000 people on the channel now, so a lot of you guys haven't heard this one. So I'm going to tell you this story, one of the craziest things that ever happened to me in today's video here. Also, guys, before we get started, thank you very much, man, for everybody that's taken time to hit that subscribe button here at Intuitive Angling. If you want a free and easy way to support the channel, you like the content, hitting that subscribe button, hitting the hype button, hitting the like button, you know, joining up as a channel member is a great way to do it. And also, guys, thank you very much, man. You hear me talking about this, but I can't reiterate how important it is. If you're one of the guys that have been using and bookmarking my Tackle Warehouse link that is in every video description to purchase your fishing gear, thank you very much for me and my family. We really appreciate that. And that definitely keeps the channel on YouTube, and thank you very much for that. Okay, guys, I have a lot of crazy things that has happened throughout the course of my fishing, you know, over the past 50 years. Some of them stand out a little bit more, but I got one story I want to tell you about. This was a Bassmaster Invitational down at the Arkansas River. It was out of Little Rock down there. The place where they've had several Bassmaster Classics, where Rick Clunn won the Bassmaster Classic in 1984. This was that particular part of the river there. So anyway, this was the first day of practice on the river here. And this was back, you got to realize, this was... man, this was 1990 or maybe late 80s even, probably around 1990. This was before cell phones and before GPS. All we had was a paper map and flashers. And I had never been on this part of the river before, so I started out that morning and I was looking at the map at some promising looking creeks and stuff down the lake, down the river there. And there was one creek that it looked like it went way back in there where I wanted to get into. It was probably about 10 miles down the river. And the Arkansas River over there, where it's at, there's a bunch of like islands in the river. And you can run behind some of the islands. They're deep enough to run to get back into some of these backwater areas. So anyway, in this one particular one, I got looking at this creek, and it was sort of cut off. It wasn't an island, but it was like a big bay that you had to run back in order to get into the back end of this creek. So anyway, it was probably about, from the mouth of this bay back to the creek, I'm guessing it was probably about 2 miles or something like that. And I'd done this type of stuff 100 times before, where I ran over like silted flats and stuff to get back into an area. And in this particular one, I saw this creek back in there, and it looked like to me from looking at the map that there was some pretty decent water depth. So I decided I'm just gonna blow in there. So I start running back in there, and I get about probably a half a mile back into this bay, giant bay area, and it starts getting shallower and shallower and shallower. And I trim up, you know, because I think I'm getting closer to the creek. I'm still about maybe a quarter of a mile or so away from the mouth of the creek, where I know it gets deeper in there, maybe a half mile. It's quite a distance there. And it got shallower and shallower. And I was trimming up, and I started trimming mud up and that type of stuff. And I said, I've got to bail out. I don't know what's ahead of me. So I started to make a turn to bail out, and all of a sudden I just hit bottom. It was mud, and my boat went up on its side on this mud flat, because I was trying to turn, and I turned into a shallower area that was only about probably 3 or 4 inches deep. So anyway, my boat is stuck in the middle of this bay. I'm talking, I'm 100 yards away from the bank. I'm in the middle of this bay, and the water's 4 inches deep. And my boat is literally like, it's so shallow, the boat's not even flat. The boat's sitting on its side like this. So I'm like, son of a bitch, you know, this is like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do here. So anyway, this has happened to me before. So I used to fish like this a lot. Now this was back, you got to remember, I had a 350 Ranger, 17-foot boat with a 150. So it was considerably lighter than the boats today, considerably lighter. So only 17.5 foot long. So I got out and I started wading around, because I said, okay, I've just got to wade around until I can find some deeper water, and maybe I can, you know, push this thing or I don't know, get somebody to tow me to a little bit deeper water. So I waited and waited and waited, and I couldn't find any deep water. It's like I'd been blowing mud for quite a long ways. So I walked about, probably, I'm gonna guess, 100 yards or so from where the boat was stuck, and it slowly started to get a little bit deeper. But I've got 100 yards of basically 6 inches of water or less to go over. And I got thinking, it's like, what am I going to do? So I get back there, and it's like, I started thinking, it's like, okay, what am I going to do with this? It's like, there's nobody here. It's like, I'm back behind this bay. I'm not on the main river. So, all the main river, I can hear the boats running on the other side of me there a little bit, but I'm back in this bay where nobody can see me. So I got thinking, it's like, okay, I've got to turn this boat around, first of all, to start heading back out the direction I came. So I got in the water, and it's like, the boat being light, and it was a sandy type muddy bottom. It was soft, but it wasn't soft enough to where I sank in a long time. It's like I'd sink in a little bit. It was a nice soft bottom. So I was able to muscle the boat around to get the nose pointed out towards the main part of the lake, the direction I needed to go. But the boat was still sort of on its side a little bit. So I couldn't push it. It's like the boat was too heavy and it was too shallow to push. So I got thinking about this, what can I do? And the only thing that I thought that I could do was to dig a hole out. It was like the motor was so shallow, it's like when you put the motor down, it wouldn't even go flat. It was like it hit mud. So I said, okay, I'm going to dig a hole out back where my prop goes. And then I'm going to put my prop in the hole, and I'm going to goose it, and maybe I can push forward a little bit. So I took my paddle. Back then you had to have a paddle as safety equipment in your boat. I took the paddle, I dug out a little, like a little, hole where I could trim my motor down in there. I trimmed my motor down there, got back in the boat, and I'd goose the boat, and it inched forward like maybe a foot, 10 inches or a foot. And then it died because it hit the mud again. So I had to get out and do that again, and again, and again. So you got to understand, by the end of this, I've been doing this all day long, and I probably made it halfway out of there, but I've still got a long way to go. I mean, I've still got it, and it's starting to get dark at this point. And it's like, okay, what am I going to do? It's starting to get dark. I'm 10 miles away from the ramp here. I don't have a cell phone. I don't have anything like that. And I said to myself, it goes, you're going to have to spend the night on the boat, which I did. So anyway, got my stuff out. I had some snacks and stuff in the boat, got back in the boat, sort of, laid out some life jackets, put my rain gear on, and I went to sleep, and I stayed in the boat overnight. Nobody knew where I was at this point. It's like, and I was rooming with some buddies of mine, and still nobody knew where I was. So anyway, at that point, I got up the next morning and repeated the process over and over and over again, getting out of the boat, digging that hole, goosing it, going about a foot. It'd stop, getting out of the boat, digging another hole, goosing it, it'd go about a foot. So about 3 o'clock, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon of the second day of practice, I finally got out deep enough to where the boat started to float a little bit. So it started to float, and I started to push it. I pushed it deeper until it got, deep enough to where I could get going in it. And at that point, I trimmed the motor back up, tried to get up on plane, and I couldn't get back on plane. The heat had literally melted my prop. The prop, the blades on a prop are normally about, 8 or 10 inches long. The blades on my prop were like 4 or 5 inches long, and they were thin as a potato chip. And I was convinced I fried the motor. It's like I said, I guarantee I've fried this motor beyond usage anymore. So I took it in. So I had another prop. I got my spare prop on, ran back to the ramp, and I went to the service crew, and they cleaned the motor out, got everything going, got me a new prop on there, and it was good to go. And I wound up fishing the tournament. And I fished out of that boat the rest of the year with no problems. But that was the freaking one of the craziest things that ever happened to me. And there was no one that came in there. Like all day long, nobody came in there to help me. And I don't even know if somebody came in there, if they could even got me out of there, because it was so shallow. I probably would have had to have a airboat to pull me out of that thing. So Anyway, if you heard that story, sorry about it. If you haven't, wanted to share that with you guys, and we'll talk later.